My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminski, filling in for Dave DeBow. And have you ever wondered how to turn real estate investments into a well-oiled machine, freeing up your time and maximizing profits? Well, today, my guest, Andrey Kulakevich.
Andrey Kulakevich.
Yes. If you saw how it's spelled, you'd understand where I'm with the struggle. But nevertheless, a seasoned real estate investor and construction expert, currently located in Nova Scotia, on his move to Alberta soon, as he says to me, has cracked the code on building wealth through strategic property ventures. Andrey, welcome to the show. I apologize for the last name.
Thank you.
So yeah, we had talked a little bit before the show. You're in Nova Scotia now. Did you move out there for real estate?
No, I moved here part of the immigration to Canada. So I moved here as a teenager with my parents, and we kind of stayed here since 2008.
Okay. And so how did you get started in the real estate, in the whole real estate investment side of things?
So it was part of my process to get to kind of financial freedom. I was looking back when I was still in university. I was looking for a way to kind of flip the conventional, work for 40 years, retire for about 15 kind of thing.
Yeah.
I said, I need to figure out a way to flip it, basically work for about 10, 15 years and then retire, which I consider just do whatever you want kind of thing. Focus on what you enjoy, what brings you kind of happiness or just something that you see as an important task to complete versus just grinding paycheck to paycheck. So I started looking into the different avenues, and I was looking for a proven model kind of thing. I was looking for something that if you do step 1, 2, 3, you almost guarantee the results kind of thing. That's how I came across real estate. Back then, that was 2015, 2016. So there were not too much resources online. You had the odd, like there was bigger pockets that was just getting started kind of thing. And there were a couple other resources. And I basically started scouring the internet and looking for any kind of information I could get on it. And yeah, I was saying within about 6 months, I kind of figured, it seems to be starting to repeat itself. I don't seem to be getting too much new information out of it, so it's kind of time to get going. And that's how basically I started looking for something. And back then, it was the whole kind of big new thing, the BRRRR strategy. Which when I went to my local mortgage broker here, he's like, it's just a refinance. I mean, you just renovating a property and refinancing the value out of it. They put some flashy acronym around it.
Make it easier to remember, maybe.
I suppose to some people. At the end of the day, it's just a refinance. You're trying to increase the value of a property and then pull that money out of it with the refinance.
Is that what kind of led you down the construction company avenue with renovating?
Eventually, that kind of came about more dealing with some of the local contractors. I couldn't find anyone who would be, I would say, reasonable in some sense. As an investor, that's one of the biggest things that you'll notice. You're trying to make money, right? You're trying to capture the difference between how much you put into it and how much value is created. And most contractors are trying to grab all that value to themselves so that you come out break even kind of thing, right? And so it's a constant battle between you and the contractors trying to find someone who will do it for cheaper than what the value that they create kind of thing for you. versus those who actually know what they're doing, will do it properly, but they want to be compensated for that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a fine line between
Exactly, and that's a thing where a lot of people are getting burned when they're trying to get into real estate, because every transaction basically comes down to the end result. So you have to make sure that you can get to the end, the finished product. As long as you get there, you might lose some money, or you might leave some money on the table, or some other stuff, but you actually, at least you can kind of see the next step.
Yeah, 'cause
Potentially
if you don't
sell
get
it to
out-
recoup your
yeah.
money, do something with it. If you get stuck midway through, that's what breaks people in real estate.
Mhm.
You have to make sure that no matter what, you're gonna get to the finish line. If you get stuck midway through, people are just gonna offer you pennies on the dollar kind of thing. That's what most people are looking for, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Someone who potentially got burned, and now you're getting the deal from them.
Yeah, now you're the deal.
Yeah, you now got the deal, kind of thing, right?
So you mentioned, we were talking a little bit before about this, the land assembly project that you kind of came upon. Can you walk us through the process of identifying and executing such a project?
So the land assembly was the most successful project that I've done up to date, money-wise kind of thing.
Mhm.
It started as a simple, just two properties on the same street kind of thing, being bought for a renovation project, conversion from single family to a duplex, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They just happened to be next to each other, within 2 or 3 properties in between them, on
Mhm.
the same street. And as we were finishing up, we decided to buy another property on the same street with my business partner, because while we bought those two properties and worked on them for the next year and a half or so,
Mhm.
the city has rezoned that street. And now all of a sudden, it's not zoned for a duplex, it's zoned for 6 floors, as many units as you want.
Mhm.
And we had already 2 properties on it, and it just came out, so you kind of grab that opportunity before it's mainstream kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we were able to buy another property in between the two. And so we applied at that point for an 8-unit new construction. We demolished the existing building and applied for an 8-unit new construction building on that lot.
Mhm.
That was our first time applying for new construction, especially of that size. And we went through the whole permitting process and the whole application process, architects, engineers, and so forth. And we noticed that it's taking us quite a bit of time, especially in that case where some of the neighbors appealed our building,
Mhm.
even though it was as of right. It had to go to the local council, at which point, and the whole process is taking months at this point. Because it
Mhm.
took us some time to demolish it. It took us some time to get all the architecture done and all the extra stuff that all of a sudden, because we went beyond the stuff we've done before. So all of a sudden they asked for extra engineering and extra designs from electrical, HVAC, and whatnot for a bigger building. And so it took us a little while to even apply for the whole thing. And then it gets appealed by the neighbors, goes to council, which takes another couple months. So we noticed that at this point it's taking us
A year.
about 6 months. Luckily enough, it wasn't that bad, but about 6 months. So we looked at it and like, okay, so if that's the process, then we're going to start ahead of time purchasing properties so that we can go through the whole process. So while we're building this one, the next one is going to go through the same process and be ready to go back to back. Because at that point, we already had I had already had my own construction company, and I want to make sure that I have a continuous work for the guys, right? I'm not
Mhm.
going to send them. It's not a subcontractor that they can just go grab another project in between my projects or anything like that. I have a full time in-house crew that needs to be employed.
Mhm.
Time. So at that point, we started approaching the other neighbors. And bit by bit, we started getting contracts for the other neighbors as well. And before we knew it, and we were working with our mortgage broker to kind of secure all of those properties, get mortgages to hold them.
Mhm.
At that point, we already were kind of running out of cash to just throw at those things. And I was at that time as well full-time self-employed with my own construction company. So we were looking at the different, and then all of a sudden, so we started designing the whole thing. So okay, we're gonna do that small 8-unit building. Then we bought 2 more lots to the left of it. We're gonna do like a 24-unit building there, and then we're gonna do the 3 on the other side, and put like a 36. So we're gonna gradually increase the number of units and increase the size of the projects that we're going to be doing. But of course, because we're limited by my own construction company, my own construction experience, it had to be like slowly increasing up to that size, to the bigger size. But our mortgage broker pointed out kind of, you guys, it's kind of a waste of the fact that you have 6 lots all in a row. You can put a 100-unit building on it, and you guys are here putting like an 8-unit and a 20-unit, and like you kind of wasting a really great site and a great location to build something much bigger. So he proposed that we scrap the whole thing and find a partner, a developer partner, to kind of work with. So he would do some of the bigger stuff. My crew will come in and do some of the internal stuff kind of thing, and work on it that way. So we scrapped all the permits, we scrapped all the other stuff, and started looking for something like that. Unfortunately, everyone is super busy here. Everyone was extremely busy. They basically told us it's going to be 2 to 5 years until they can get to it.
Yeah.
And we were scrapping by getting every penny we could to secure the whole deal, right? And we went to private lenders to make sure that we can actually close on everything. So it's more of a bridge loan, short-term kind of thing, something for you to hold for 6 to 12 months, and then you have to figure it out kind of thing. And so once we figured out that a development is not going to happen, or at least not within our timelines, we decided to sell it. And because we secured especially the first 2 properties, so the whole thing sold for about 750 a lot, so 4.5 million for the whole thing. And the initial couple of properties, we bought them for like 200 to 250. Then it went up to like 306. Then it went up to like, because the more of them you start buying, the more of them also start realizing, you're like, oh, this is, my house.
I'm the holdout.
I'm also the guy in the middle between your other properties. So I want a bit more, like if you need me kind of thing. But it still worked out. So we end up all in all putting about $3 million into purchasing all 6 lots, and sold for the 4.5.
Nice. So, there's a lot going on there. Would you recommend someone try something like that?
Only if you can hold it long term. And I would also recommend not skipping a neighbor. So that then you're stuck with properties around them. Because my business partner went ahead and tried the same thing down the street. And so he was able to secure 1 property. Then he talked to the other neighbors. He secured 1 door down past the one. He secured that one as well for a decent price. And then he fought the middle guy for probably 6+ months. And even then he ended up paying probably about double what his property is worth. It still worked out. It still works out. He's going to make some money off of it, but it's such a huge risk. And for the longest time, he also was almost sure that he's not going to be able to close on the middle guy, and he's tried to get rid of the 2 other properties, and he couldn't even barely get breaking even with all the holding costs and all the money spent on securing it.
So you got to have that like big money to play that game. Big
money as well. So you need money to kind of be able to hold it for longer term. Hopefully as well have other exit strategies. So kind of either have each one make sense on its own, so you can at least sell them, break even, or have a small profit on them. Or, kind of going in sequence. So if you buy, for example, 3 lots, you go in sequence so that you can at least do some, not maybe as big of a project as you planned, something a little bit smaller, but it still makes sense. Yeah.
So the construction company, what are some key lessons you learned running the construction company, particularly regarding your managing of the overhead costs?
So the construction company, I did a lot of the math when I bought some of the equipment, and in a lot of cases, like when you start doing your math of like, okay, I'm gonna use it that so often a year, and that way it makes sense to purchase it versus leasing it once in a while, and then math wise it kind of makes sense, but then life gets in the way, kind of thing.
Mm.
And you might not use it as often, or you use it enough to make sense for the value that you get out of it. But the monthly payments, as you expand and you buy more and more equipment, and if you get into some tight situation where tight on cash, like I said, you have to make sure that you get to the finish, so that you have at least some sort of exit, whether you sell it, whether you refinance it, whatever you do with the property. If midway through you run out of cash and you have no way to kind of secure more cash to just get to that end result, you just burn, basically. You could go bankrupt, and those monthly expenses that kind of, it makes sense, it covers itself up and everything else. When you're low on cash and you still have to pay, the 2,000 for one excavator, the 2,500 for the skid steer, the 700 for the mobile office, for the, it all kind of adds up, and before you know it, and I wasn't thinking it was that much, and then I sat down and put everything to a spreadsheet, and then multiply it, especially by the 12 months. And I'm like, I didn't even notice, but that's $200,000 a year that I'm spending here between insurances and equipment and other stuff like that. And if it's not in use, so I would recommend renting, no matter what. I know the math makes more sense to buy or lease or whatever, as a company, but until it's like a complete no-brainer of like, I'm clearly spending, I don't know, times and a half, 2 times what it would cost me to own my own, and I'm clearly using it. It doesn't make sense. So that's how I initially started. I used to rent a U-Haul to move some stuff around, and then after a month or so, I realized that I'm paying about double what it would cost me to own my own pickup truck. I went and bought one.
Then it adds up when you're like, okay, I own it now, and so the maintenance is mine too.
The maintenance is mine too, yes. But that's the thing. If you see that it's you're using it so much and you need it on
a daily basis,
on basically daily basis, to the point where it's like getting to the point of doubling what it will cost you to own your own.
Yeah.
That's the only point that at this point I would start buying equipment, actually. Or again, if you have a profitable enough company and you have just cash left over at the end of the year, and instead of paying taxes on it, you want to spend it on some additional equipment that that you've used for the past year. There's talk to your accountant, kind of thing, figure out there's ways to kind of, that might make more sense to spend money on some equipment and some training and other stuff, rather than just leaving the profit.
Now you mentioned in your survey here that the margins weren't really all that good for the construction company at the end of the day. Because I remember initially I started with real estate, and I said, why don't we ever like have the construction company and just keep it all? And he said, well, as my mentor said to me, he's like, well, I did the numbers and the margins just weren't that exciting at the end of the day to actually like manage the construction company and have them out there, with the time and energy. So what are you seeing on the side? Because there's clearly busy, like you're saying, it's clearly busy out there. But
it's busy. So let me put it this way. I think you're referring more to I did the deals themselves, so new construction as a whole. So when it comes down to real estate, right, you can I started myself in renovations and small conversions.
The renovation side.
Exactly. The renovation side made sense, but then again, I had the kind of, I either found cheaper contractors that would do it, but then I have to keep track of what's going on and make sure, you start fighting with them over when and how you're going to pay them or not pay them or some other stuff.
Yeah.
Versus the other quotes that I received from contractors that, have great reputation, quick to respond, and the whole thing, they were about triple the cost. So he's clearly making money. If you hire him, he's clearly making money. And that's one of those things. You have to decide what kind of investor you are and where you come from, right? I came with my own cash that I saved with my wife, and I had to recycle it, right, with the refinance to create value, more value than what you spend on, and try and recycle that money, because getting another down payment for another property out of our own pocket, like I know I've seen Dave Ramsey suggest that to kind of just buy it. He recommends buying cash altogether, but all I'm saying, even if you were to get the down payment, all of us know that it's pretty hard those days to even save up the down payment. So while we were, fresh out of university, lived on a single salary, saved the other salary, and we both have bachelor degrees with really good salaries. I'm a software engineer. She's a registered nurse. So we were able to very quickly save up a down payment, a 20% down payment. And again, back then as well, the prices you could find a duplex in the 200s back then in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Not something that you can do those days. So again, you would probably need double the down payment at this point of what we were able to use back then. So you're basically trying, again, like you're fighting the contractor of who's going to be making money off of this deal, the contractor or you kind of thing as the investor.
So you're like, you got to pay someone, it might as well be me.
Exactly, but that's the thing. Then you're trying to find the cheap contractor,
especially on
those
like
usually
refinance. Yeah, when you're refinancing, like the cheapest guy is not the best one, because the bank will come after you. Like the bank will like look at your project and be like, oh yeah, maybe it's not, 450. Maybe we're talking about 400. Now all of a sudden it's sideways. So you really do have to like know how to refinance, especially with your bank relationship, because I've seen that so many times where they do it like maybe quick and cheap, and they get not the refinance that they expect.
That they were expecting, and that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of, and again, especially when you start, and unless you have a mentor that can tell you exactly what needs to be done, what will actually generate you the most value for the dollar, and what makes sense. Because again, like everyone can demand their own price. you can come and, like I said, one of the original cosmetic renovations that I've done when I just bought my first property, I had a guy that came in and said, I'll do the labor like $20 an hour. And then I had another one and came down and told me like it's going to be $65 an hour. And I'm like, are you going to send 3 guys in there at the same time? He's like, no, it's going to be just the one guy. And but he's going to be supervising him. So the guy is still getting paid $20 an hour. And that's one thing to remember. Their laborers are going to be the same guys. But the difference is he has the experience, he has the knowledge, he's taking the kind of the guarantee that it's going to get done properly. And he has his margins in there as well. Like I said, he's charging triple what it actually costs.
Yeah, the man-hour rate. Yeah.
To make sure that he's safe. And and again, as you run your own business, you realize there's a lot of overhead on top of the whole thing as well. Especially if he has those guys full time. There's a lot of overhead involved with that as well. And you want a room again for a company, a proper company, not the self-employed. I'm just doing it on the side, cash or no cash, or other stuff. There's a lot of those guys as well, and that's probably what you want for your project as an investor. Someone who's just looking for that extra job work, or that's what he does instead of a full-time job. But they're basically looking to get paid for the hour. Someone who actually runs a business is going to charge more because they need to advertise, they need to think about how to spend, they have the insurances, and go. There's a lot more involved. Like I said, he might have equipment that he's paying every month that he needs to cover, and he might have some slower month in the winter, and then more work in the spring and summer. and so
So
forth.
are
You
you
have to
gonna
balance.
bring the contracting company and restart it in Alberta? Or are you done with the contracting side of things?
Well, so I've personally haven't done even contracting. I haven't been doing contracting. I've been working on my own projects, and it's either was my own project that I've personally put my money into it, or I personally got private lending to do some projects, or it was a project that I've done with an investor, with a business partner.
Mm-hmm. So are
Uh,
you planning to, I guess the question is, are you done managing the trades yourself going forward? Like, what does the future look like in Alberta? Because you mentioned you're moving. So
yeah.
Alberta, what does the future look like for your real estate and your business as you move into this new chapter?
Right. So here in Halifax, I was basically an investor myself, a developer. I would buy properties and redevelop them, increase the density, increase the units. And I slowly transitioned from just renovations to a new construction.
Mm-hmm.
That way, I was trying to get it to the point where you have full control over how many units and what your trajectory of where you're gonna go with it. Because a lot of people are trying to transition from the duplex, the triplex stuff, and go into bigger buildings. But if
Yeah,
you're
like
looking for
small,
something that,
medium. Yeah.
yeah, like the 8, the 10, the 12 unit buildings to kind of transition into, there's a limited amount of them. Not a lot of them are not for sale to begin with. Um, and then again, we're looking here, right, for the same situation. You're looking for a property that you can renovate, that you can increase the value of it, and so forth, which is decrease your pool even further. And so I want to control over that. So land for development, there's always land for development. Whether it's close to the city, outside the city, redevelopment opportunities, cities keep rezoning all over the place, which creates new opportunities for redevelopment. Right now, for example, Halifax is looking to introduce the whole 4 units everywhere. Same as Toronto, as Vancouver. They're debating, and they should be proceeding within the next couple of months if everything goes smooth. Then a good chunk of the city is going to be rezoned and be allowing for 4 units. So and that's again depends what you consider renovation, right? And versus the new construction. And the new construction, again, you can buy a piece of land which is going to be still a lot cheaper than any house that can be converted into a 4 unit.
Yeah.
Because a piece of land is always going to be cheaper than an existing house.
Yeah, and all the existing house is going to do is bring you like the asbestos reports and the
Exactly. So
tear it
there's additional
down
costs
in
associated with
6
that.
months anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some common misconceptions that you've encountered in real estate investing, over your career, and what advice would you give to people just getting into the real estate business?
So one of the misconceptions that I would say that I've encountered, and that's the way I see real estate in general, and that's how I'm going to be approaching it going forward. For example, in the new construction, especially, anything under the whole 5-6 units, what would be considered residential, there's no money in it, at least not in Nova Scotia. Between the cost of the land, the cost of the construction, the GST, HST on it, you're left with nothing basically. So when you approach it that way, you basically have to have a source of income outside of real estate, or in general. You have to have some sort of active income that comes in, and you look into kind of something to do with it. Then it makes sense to do new construction.
But anything bigger than that makes sense, but smaller than that, it's not making sense.
Anything bigger than that, it can make sense, but then again, it comes down to the fact that right now, for example, you can refinance 95% with commercial, with anything that is 5 units and above, of course, with their own terms, but you can get 50-year amortizations, 95% refinance.
Yeah.
With 95% refinance, it's not that hard to kind of pull some money out of it. Plus, you get
the other side would be like 70 or 80% maybe. If
That's what
you're
I'm saying. Residential, you always stuck at a 75 to 80%, exactly. Which to squeeze the land and construction and taxes into 80%, 75 to 80% is basically impossible.
basically impossible.
So you're gonna leave some money in the building. You're gonna put some money into it. You're not gonna pull all of it out with new construction with residential, especially in Nova Scotia where we have 15%, GST, HST.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you got a lot on the horizon and you've really done the numbers. And so I think Alberta's going to be a really great opportunity for you because it's blowing up right now. If people want to connect with you, they want to find out more about you and your business, what should they do? How do they find you?
They can look up Kulak Construction, Kulak Construction Limited. I'm going to be transitioning the company into Alberta, specifically Calgary. And Calgary itself right now offers a lot of townhouse developments with secondary units. So you're looking at 3+3, 4+4, 5+5 on a lot of the different lots. So you're again looking into those commercial financing, CMHC with 95% pull out. So at that point you can actually pull all your money out and then potentially then some, because on average we're looking at 20% for land, 65% for construction. So you're only 85%, and then you add some soft costs, you're still in the 89-90%. So you're actually going to be able to pull more money than you put into it. And then the lending sphere in Alberta and Calgary is very different from what I've seen here locally in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Right.
From the perspective that we've actually talked to lenders in Calgary, and they're doing 95% of total cost. So that would be the land plus the construction. So you're only 5% into
5%, yeah.
5% into the whole project. And there's of course other requirements such as net worth and cash available to show them as well, to make sure, again, they want to make sure that you can finish the project, right?
Yeah, that you can back it
and
up.
a lot of those construction loans themselves as well. You put money up front and then you pull it back out and then you keep going that way.
Yeah.
They want to see that you put the money first. They want to see the progress. They want to make sure that that money didn't just disappear, right?
Yeah, that there's a security there.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by.
Not a problem.
All right, guys. Until next time, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.